Hi, this is Ben from Polar Star Airsoft. We're here at SHOT Show 2016 with Airsoft DB, going over a few of the new Polar Star products. First up, we talked about it a while ago, it's finally here, is the F1 system. It's similar to Jack, but it has a different solenoid, a different firing mechanism, and a couple extra features we've added in. One of it is the two-stage firing. It actually fires at 2 different points of the nozzle travel, and a unidirectional flow control, which allows us to adjust the speed of the nozzle, different speeds for forward and backwards travel, and it also allows for the second stage of firing. Another new one which came out earlier this year is Jack, and we're still coming up with additional accessories, electronics, and compatibility kits for the Jack system. Some of those include the new FCUs, like the Mini FCU. This one is trigger-based programming, has a built-in motor control unit, 3-wire port to go for connect to an M60 or say a PKM box mag where you have a priming switch and you need constant power as well as switch power. It's super small. Battery life has been increased. It's about 26 microamps current draw in idle, so that's over 300 days just sitting on a 250 milliamp hour battery. Similar to the Mini FCU, we also have the Bluetooth FCU. Same voltage regulators, very similar current draw. Also has the integral motor control port. Both of these units can function with the box mag as well as an output speaker, mainly for the trigger control unit. If you're inputting programming through the trigger, it's nice to have some feedback to know what mode you're in and what settings you're in. With the box mag connected, it'll actually vibrate your box mag in different patterns to let you know what mode you're in. With the speaker module connected, it'll actually just beep back to you to let you know that the program's settings that you've entered are confirmed. This is designed with the mounting hole here to mount where the spring guide used to be because the spring guide is no longer needed. So this whole assembly actually fits within the gearbox. There's no wire harness external to the gearbox to break anymore. So all you'll have is different length battery jumper like extensions to go either to the rear wire into the buffer tube or front wire into the grips. There's no need for the wire harness to actually be touched when you're programming the system now. And it's the same thing with the Bluetooth. It's not quite small enough to fit in the spring guide area, but it is small enough to fit inside the gearbox shell itself with a little extra room. And this one, because it's Bluetooth, you don't need to take it out to program it. So neither of these will have a wire harness that needs to be touched, which reduces the possibility of breaking it. And then with the Fusion engine, we're going to apply the same updates of the electronics to the Fusion engine control unit. So the one with the joystick and LCD, that we call it our standard control unit, that one's going to get the same voltage regulators and changes to make it just as efficient. And we're going to add the 3-port motor control unit into that as well. The new electronics, specifically the Bluetooth and the Mini FCU, are designed for single solenoid systems like the Jack and the F1. The Fusion engine is a dual solenoid system, which actually requires 2 wires, 1 for each solenoid. Since we don't need the 2 wires for the single solenoid systems, we've repurposed the second solenoid wire as a second input, which allows us to use 4-position selectors like the MP5. You have a safe, semi, burst, and full auto. The second selector position allows that second switch to make that happen. Jack fires the solenoid in this is only for pushing the nozzle forward, and then we vent the air out and let the nozzle drop back. So the nozzle's always trying to be pushed back, but we have enough extra surface area when we apply air through the solenoid to actually drive it forward past its firing point. And the way that works is air's coming in through here. It comes in through the rear cylinder, through this bottom hole, the larger bottom hole. Air for the actual nozzle itself comes in through the small hole in the center. And what happens is it gets distributed through these ports in what we call the donut and wraps around the outside of the donut and pushes on the front O-ring of the nozzle. So the 2 O-rings in the back is trying to drive it to the rear. When we apply air behind the nozzle, it drives it forward. That O-ring breaks the seal, allows the air down through these radial ports and down through the front of the nozzle. F1 is like a combination of that and the Fusion engine poppet, where that and a traditional blow forward. We still have the same distribution ports here. We still have the same flow wrapping around. We still have the same radial ports for firing with the double O-rings. But in this particular style, we have basically a check valve in here. This O-ring acts as a check valve. So depending on the flow direction through those holes, it's going to determine how much flow can go through, which affects the nozzle speed. So if you see on the back, we have 8 holes. They're not all in the same circle, and one slightly smaller. The 7 of the 8 holes that are larger are actually underneath the O-ring, whereas the smallest hole is outside of the O-ring. So when we have flow going this direction, when the nozzle's trying to come forward and push this air back out, the O-ring contracts in and blocks 7 out of those 8 ports, which slows the nozzle's forward travel. When it gets all the way forward and this seal breaks, airflow direction changes. It's moving this way out the radial ports and through the front, so the O-ring expands out and allows all 8 holes to flow. So it allows us to slow it on the way forward, but get full flow once we're there. And then on the way back, when we're trying to suck air back through to fill that area, not suck, but push the air in, the O-ring is going to get pushed out again so that we can get full flow and retract it as fast as possible. And that allows us to fire off 2 points. We can make it smaller by using the actual stem of the solenoid as our stem, rather than having a separate stem like Jack does. So it helps reduce the overall length and creates the first firing point here, and then the second firing point with the radial ports. And that's essentially all of the internals of the F1, the only externals being the front and rear cylinder and the fitting. Those are the main new products for Polar Star for 2016, and we're going to keep coming out with new compatibility kits and electronics.